In 2010, the video game industry had found itself in a peculiar place. On one hand, Nintendo's Wii had become the generation's best-selling platform by a wide margin, thanks to its motion controls and broadly appealing software like Wii Sports and Wii Fit. But the bulk of the best-selling games of the generation were on competing platforms, where Sony and Microsoft prioritized more modern features like high-definition visuals and internet connectivity. The novelty of the Wii was wearing off, and its standard-definition effective repackaging of GameCube technology was showing its already considerable age. Fortunately, Nintendo had big plans to revolutionize the gaming landscape again with yet another new kind of controller, one that could effectively blend the features of their immensely popular DS handheld with a new home console, while on the handheld front, they would finally be able to realize a goal they had been chasing for decades: three-dimensional gaming. Dating back to the Famicom, Nintendo always had a fascination with displaying games in 3D. But while products like the Famicom 3D system and Virtual Boy were capable of allowing players to experience Nintendo games in 3 dimensions, neither one of them caught on with mainstream audiences. It was a neat trick, but it was ultimately an insular experience, often requiring an external peripheral to enable the effect. But that was all about to change as the successor to the DS promised to lower the bar of entry for 3D gaming more than nearly any product before it. At E3 2010, after months of rumors following its initial announcement earlier that year, the follow-up to Nintendo's most successful platform of all time was finally fully unveiled to the world: the Nintendo 3DS. It brought along with it significant power boost over its predecessor, an analog circle pad for more modern controls, and most impressive of all, glasses-free 3D. Showgoers thought it was magic, as the system's top screen was capable of displaying gameplay in 3 dimensions without the need for players to wear special glasses or a helmet of any kind. Buzz for the new handheld was overwhelmingly positive, but a familiar question loomed once again: where was Mario? Not only were any new Mario games completely absent from the system's reveal, but it was all happening as the original Super Mario Bros. Was about to celebrate its 25th anniversary, something Nintendo would commemorate in a fashion that few saw coming. For all of the favor Nintendo lost with their core audience during the Wii era, one thing their fans generally felt they were doing right was a digital sales line called Virtual Console. On the Wii Shop channel, the Wii's dedicated online storefront, players could purchase classic Nintendo games from the company's vast array of previous platforms. NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, and even old competitors like Sega Master System, Genesis, TurboGrafx-16, and Commodore were eventually made available on the service as well. However, the overwhelmingly slow cadence at which Nintendo added new games became a point of frustration. This was made all the more difficult for fans, as several significant titles continually found themselves not on the surface month after month, including one of Mario's most memorable releases for the Super NES, Super Mario All-Stars. Despite it being one of the most requested titles to be added, it would eventually go on to avoid the Virtual Console altogether, but not the Wii. Super Mario All-Stars Limited Edition was released for the Wii in December 2010, finally bringing the 16-bit classic to Nintendo's current generation platform. The game came in a special limited edition package that included a music CD containing a selection of songs and sound effects from the last 25 years of Super Mario adventures, as well as an art book which featured basic information about many of the mainline releases. As for the game itself, it was quite literally just the ROM file for Super Mario All-Stars pressed onto a Wii disc, no more and no less. This left fans at the time wanting for something a bit more significant to celebrate the Super Mario series' 25th anniversary. Not only were the bonus items included in the package rather anemic, with the art book containing very little text and the music CD's paltry tracklist only featuring 10 unique songs, but the version of the game wasn't even the revised edition that also included Super Mario World. It still managed to sell over 2 million copies, but fans and critics weren't pleased, a sentiment that Nintendo was about to get yet another dose of on a much larger scale. When the Nintendo 3DS launched in March of 2011, it did so having lost nearly all of the momentum it gained during its initial unveiling. Many thought the price was too high at $249.99, more expensive than Nintendo's then current home console, the Wii. But just as important was the system's apparent lack of games. While the 3DS was backwards compatible with all existing DS titles, original software for the platform, especially big names from Nintendo themselves, were missing. This sales slump couldn't have come at a worse time, as Nintendo's attention was already focused on their upcoming presentation at E3 2011, where they would be announcing their highly anticipated next-generation home console. The Wii had left an undeniable mark on the video game industry, as had the Nintendo DS. And even though the Wii had more than run its course and the new 3DS was struggling, Nintendo had come up with an idea that would hopefully turn the tide back in their favor, and it was called Wii U. This new platform would finally bring high-definition visuals to the world of Nintendo while maintaining full backward compatibility with the massive Wii library. But its central feature would be its bold new input device, the Wii U gamepad. It was a massive controller with a full-color touchscreen at the center of it, providing an additional screen to players. Asynchronous gameplay, touchscreen gaming, video calls, and even special chat rooms for live TV shows would make the second screen experience central to the Wii U's success. But of course, a console is nothing without games, and Nintendo had a number of tech demos on hand to show off what their innovative new system could do. Among them was a demo dubbed New Super Mario Bros. Me. While very similar in presentation to New Super Mario Bros. Wii, the demo contained new stage elements, the ability to play as Mii characters, virtual avatars popularized on the Wii console, and most importantly of all, high-definition graphics. But even seeing Super Mario in HD wasn't enough to calm the concerns of showgoers. There was some confusion surrounding the system's name. Many outlets expressed concerns over its lack of power in comparison to Sony and Microsoft's platforms, and some weren't initially sold on the gameplay potential that the gamepad promised. But even with these issues, early impressions were still generally positive. So as Nintendo continued to work hard to prepare the Wii U for its November 2012 launch, they turned their attention back to the flagging sales of the 3DS, and in August 2011 took some drastic measures to correct course. First, they lowered the price to $169.99. Then they introduced the Ambassador program, where early adopters of the system were granted 20 free games. And finally, they solidified release windows and dates on a number of highly anticipated first-party titles, including a brand new Mario Kart and the next proper game in the Super Mario series, one that would aim to combine elements of his previous platformers to create something new. Super Mario 3D Land launched for the Nintendo 3DS in November 2011, melding aspects of both Mario's 2D and 3D adventures to form something that could appeal to an even broader audience. Mario's movement and scope largely mimicked his 3D adventures, but the stage layouts were more in line with the 2D games, playing out more like linear obstacle courses with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Instead of completing objectives in an open arena-style stage, the goal became once again for Mario to reach a flagpole at the end of the level, except now he had the freedom to move in 3 dimensions. This kept objectives clear and nostalgically familiar, while still maintaining a more modern, exploratory flair. For the first time in an original 3D Mario game, power-ups were permanent unless you took damage. Mario had a default run button, and the stages were set to a time limit. This retro-inspired theme applied to the game's bosses as well, with recurring Bowser encounters playing out over bridges, and mini-boss battles pitting Mario against Boom Boom, this time joined by his new counterpart, Pom Pom, who could teleport and throw projectiles. But the biggest nostalgia appeal of all came in the form of the return of a fan-favorite power-up, the Super Leaf, albeit with a few notable changes. Instead of turning the player into Raccoon Mario, the Super Leaf now functioned like the Tanuki suit in Super Mario Bros. 3, except with far more limited capabilities. While Mario could still flap his tail to gain extra airtime, an extremely useful ability in these new 3D levels, the Super Leaf no longer granted Mario the ability to fly. Nor could he turn into a statue, a power now reserved for one of the game's new power-ups, a variant on the Super Leaf called the Statue Leaf. This special power-up gave Mario a red scarf and allowed him to both float with his tail and turn into a statue for a powerful ground pound. Other new power-ups included the Invincibility Leaf, which would make Mario effectively invulnerable, but would only appear as a tool to players who died more than 5 times in a single stage. And the Boomerang Flower, which made its debut here, formalizing the Boomerang power-up first seen in Super Mario Advance 4's World E. The story was unsurprisingly once again a simple one. The tail tree, which was usually full of super leaves, was found bare following a dark and stormy night. A note in place of the leaves from Bowser explained that the evil sorcerer had once again kidnapped Princess Peach, so Mario set out to save her. Like many Mario games before it, Super Mario 3D Land stood as a proof of concept for the 3DS's new technology, namely its 3D screen. Many aspects of the level design were built around the ability to see things in 3D, like certain structures looking one way from a fixed perspective, but looking completely different when actual depth could be perceived. 3D platforming was also able to be more complex thanks to the screen allowing players to get a better sense of Mario's placement in 3D space. Fortunately, like most 3DS games, the 3D effect was optional for younger children or people who struggled to properly see the effect, but for those that could use it, the development team's true intent shone through in brilliant form. Once again, as usual, the game culminated in a final showdown with Bowser, this time extending the typical bridge battle into a full-blown and very intense chase sequence. As expected, Mario once again won the day, saved the princess, and headed home. But while this may have seemed like the end of the game, in reality, it was merely the halfway point, as upon their return home, another letter from Bowser showed up, this time informing Mario that Luigi had been kidnapped. This opened up the special worlds, effectively doubling the game's length with more new difficult stages. Upon completion of Special World 1, Luigi became a playable character, complete with his usual unique physics and new outfit, Kitsune Luigi, which acted as the character's version of the Tanuki suit. Eventually, Bowser kidnapped the princess a second time, which the Mario Brothers quickly put a stop to, leading to the game's true ending. But even this wasn't the actual end. If players managed to beat every stage in the game with both Mario and Luigi, collect every star medal, and reach the top of every flagpole in every level, they could unlock Special 8-Crown, a secret final challenge that would put players' skills to the ultimate test. The successful 1-2 punch of Mario Kart 7 and Super Mario 3D Land, paired with the system's new lower price and the promise of even more exciting games to come, turned the 3DS into the hit new platform Nintendo had been hoping for. As for 3D Land itself, it was a tremendous critical success thanks to its impressive level design, boundless imagination, catchy music, and extraordinary depth of content. Its hybrid nature made it simultaneously like and unlike any and every Mario game before it, coming together brilliantly, solidifying it as an all-time classic. Over the course of the 3DS's lifespan, it went on to sell an impressive over 12 million units, outperforming both Super Mario Galaxy games on Wii. However, it still fell well short of the unstoppable juggernaut that was the new Super Mario Bros. Series. For all the creativity and imagination 3D Mario had to offer, it was still the basic 2D new Super Mario Bros. Games that sold the best. With both previous titles in the sub-series sitting comfortably at over 30 million units in sales apiece, Nintendo saw fit to try and replicate that success on both of their new generation platforms, a move that would bring mixed results. 2012 began with a whirlwind of excitement for Mario fans. In January, during an investment meeting, Nintendo announced that there would be a new 2D Mario coming to the 3DS in the next fiscal year. Speculation regarding the nature of this new game ran rampant, especially after internet sleuths discovered that Nintendo had registered the domain name Super Mario 4. But shortly after, in an April Nintendo Direct presentation in Japan, it was revealed that this new Mario game would be called New Super Mario Bros. 2, and that it would be landing on store shelves in just a few months' time. Only a handful of screenshots were shown, but more information was just around the corner at the 2012 Electronic Entertainment Expo. But Nintendo had even more Mario on the way than expected. At E3 2012, all eyes were on Nintendo's Wii U, as the Big N aimed to make the case for their new home console in an increasingly advanced market. But the gamepad's second screen experience that they positioned as one of the new platform's key features had run into an unforeseen problem. The rest of the tech industry had beaten them to the punch. Tablet devices like Apple's iPad had become increasingly popular and far more affordable, resulting in an explosion of second-screen experiences across numerous forms of media. While they couldn't do everything the Wii U gamepad could, especially in terms of dual-screen video gaming, features that Nintendo had billed as centerpieces for the Wii U, like video chat and Nintendo TV, were suddenly much less exciting to general consumers. But as always is the case when it comes to new hardware, its true test came down to the games, which unfortunately for Nintendo, wasn't the home run they had hoped for. After showcasing the latest game in the Pikmin series and explaining the Wii U concept more in depth, Nintendo finally unveiled the system's big new launch title, New Super Mario Bros. U. Building off the New Super Mario Bros. Me tech demo from the year before, New Super Mario Bros. U promised to be an entirely new 2D Mario adventure that took advantage of the Wii U's unique features, including a form of asymmetric multiplayer. Shortly thereafter, during the same presentation, Nintendo also gave showgoers a look at New Super Mario Bros. 2 for 3DS. A wholly unique game from New Super Mario Bros. U, New Super Mario Bros. 2 would focus on gold, with the footage showing off numerous actions generating unusual amounts of coins covering the screen, in addition to a more traditional Raccoon Mario flying in the sky, just like he did in Super Mario Bros. 3. Audience reactions to the show were mixed. The 3DS's software was generally well liked, but the Wii U left many feeling that there simply wasn't enough. Third parties mostly brought ports of games that already existed on platforms with a few exceptions, while Nintendo's own output lacked the wow factor that usually accompanied new hardware releases, finishing off the show not with a new Zelda, or a 3D Mario, or even Metroid or Star Fox, but with an in-game fireworks display from Nintendo Land, a remarkably fun yet visually underwhelming Mii-based minigame compilation. E3 hadn't gone as Nintendo had hoped, particularly how audience reacted to their double dose of new Super Mario Bros. Games. But Nintendo had faith that their products could deliver, and just a few months later, the first of their two new side-scrolling Mario adventures made its debut. New Super Mario Bros. 2 released for the Nintendo 3DS in August 2012, aiming to follow in the footsteps of its massively successful predecessors. In staying true to series norms, the story was again very simple. While visiting Princess Peach, Mario and Luigi took off for a quick Raccoon Tail flight to collect some coins. While they were away, the Koopalings kidnapped Peach, without the company of Bowser Jr. this time, so the plumbers went along after her. The ensuing adventure played out exactly as expected. Stages had a new degree of verticality to them, but were otherwise largely retreads of the same kinds of areas seen in the previous two New Super Mario Bros. Adventures. Even the music was almost a note-for-note reproduction of the older games, except with an even larger focus on the odd vocal sounds that had become a series trademark. The big difference, though, was that there were now coins everywhere. Hundreds upon hundreds of coins were constantly appearing from enemies, pipes, and special items designed specifically around making more coins appear. These coins not only still granted Mario extra lives, but also could be shown as a cumulative total on the title screen, as well as uploaded online to a grand total worldwide. The focus on coins spread to the extra modes as well, like Coin Rush. Here, players were presented with the challenge of collecting as many coins as possible within a time limit. To keep things fresh, for several months following its release, new Coin Rush stages were made available on the eShop as downloadable content. The rest of the main adventure continued to follow series traditions, right through to the end. Upon completion of the final stage, Mario had a climactic battle against a magically enlarged Bowser, thanks to the Koopa Kids. Once defeated, the princess was freed and a special World Star was unlocked, featuring the game's true final boss, Dry Bowser, whose battle played out nearly identical to the previous one, except with a slightly higher difficulty. New Super Mario Bros. 2 was by no means a bad game, nor was it completely devoid of creativity. Its reviews were generally favorable, but while it didn't necessarily do anything wrong, it was a profoundly safe and familiar game. Where Mario's new adventures were once viewed as landmark events that led the industry with style and innovation, New Super Mario Bros. 2 had cemented the New Super Mario Bros. Line as a series of games that were fun but failed to deliver anything truly new. It ultimately moved over 13 million units, barely edging out Super Mario 3D Land's performance, but while those numbers were still impressive, they were a mere fraction of what Nintendo had come to expect from the series, a fact that loomed large over the impending release of the Wii U, whose flagship launch title was yet another New Super Mario Bros. Adventure. New Super Mario Bros. U was released in November 2012, a mere 3 months after New Super Mario Bros. 2 landed on the 3DS. While Nintendo Land attempted to fill the Wii Sports slot in the Wii U's launch lineup, New Super Mario Bros. U was billed as the grand adventure intended to sell traditional and casual gamers alike on the new platform. Yet again, there wasn't much in terms of narrative. Peach, Mario, Luigi, and a pair of Toads were sitting down to enjoy a meal when a series of airships invaded. Bowser's ship launched a giant mechanical hand into the castle, which tossed our heroes miles away into a giant tree filled with some interesting-looking acorns, while the air fleet made away with Princess Peach, beginning what appeared to be yet another overly familiar adventure. And on the surface it was, but for the first time in the new series' history, New Super Mario Bros. U was in actuality more sequel than retread. All the basic tenets of the New Super Mario Bros. Series were still intact. Mario and his friends looked and animated in largely the same way, and the basic themes of each world, grass, desert, water, etc., followed the familiar pattern they always did. But this time, they were accompanied by a new sense of style. Not only did the Wii U's HD visuals make Mario's world more crisp than ever before, backgrounds featured vastly detailed environments, and stage designs were generally more interesting. The map featured even more secret exits and expansive terrain than the series had seen since Super Mario World, and almost all of the music was brand new. Also new were a number of power-ups. Where New Super Mario Bros. 2 merely borrowed the raccoon tail from Super Mario Bros. 3 in 3D Land and introduced gold versions of existing power-ups, New Super Mario Bros. U attempted to bring genuinely new abilities to the table to change things up. The primary new power-up was the Super Acorn, which turned Mario into a flying squirrel. With it, he gained the ability to launch himself in the air with a restricted double jump, cling to walls, and glide. There were also a series of new baby Yoshis that appeared in various stages of the game. When they last appeared in Super Mario World, they simply existed to be fed until they could grow into full-sized Yoshis, but in this game they came equipped with special powers. There was the Balloon Baby Yoshi that filled with air and allowed players to reach new places, the Bubble Baby Yoshi that could blow bubbles that trapped enemies and could be used as temporary platform boosts, and Glowing Baby Yoshi, who could illuminate dark spaces. The rest of the traditional power-ups were composed of returning favorites, like the penguin suit from New Super Mario Bros. Wii and the Mini Mushroom. Similar to the original New Super Mario Bros. On DS, New Super Mario Bros. U also didn't make much use of the Wii U's second screen, but it was used for a unique multiplayer mode called Boost Mode. In it, a player could take control of the Wii U gamepad and place platforms anywhere they wanted on screen, with some slight limitations. This could be used to help players get where they were trying to go, or as an impediment to try and trick people into falling to their doom. New Super Mario Bros. U was also host to a brand new character in the Mario universe, named Nabbit. This strange purple rabbit creature would appear in various stages having captured a toad. Mario could then go back to that stage and try and catch him and free the toad, resulting in a free Super Acorn. In addition to the standard adventure, New Super Mario Bros. U included a challenge mode, where players would have to complete specific objectives in a limited time, Boost Rush mode, where players had to speedrun a set of specific stages, and Coin Battle, which originally appeared in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, where players competed to see who could grab the most coins in a single stage. After chasing down and defeating all the Koopalings and their airships, Mario once again faced off against Bowser Jr. and his father in an oversized showdown that involved Mario stealing Bowser Jr.'s Koopa Clown car to attack the menacing wizard. As always, Bowser was eventually bested, Mario freed the princess, and they all got to go home in peace. Despite its surface-level similarities to its forebears, New Super Mario Bros. U wound up being more of the 2D Mario sequel fans had been clamoring for since the original New Super Mario Bros. On DS. It was bright, colorful, creative, and built on the basics of what came before it in interesting ways. Unfortunately, the damage had already been done to the New Super Mario Bros. Brand, and the game's performance suffered at least in part because of it. Its selling points weren't immediately apparent to people who were burned out on the previous New Super Mario Bros. Games, and then there was the issue of the system it was created for. From the time of its announcement, the Wii U suffered a major branding problem. The Wii name itself had become toxic, with most players writing it off as a fad that had passed. The Wii U's form factor was also very similar, which left the general public unsure if it was a whole new platform or an add-on for the existing Wii consoles. The system was expensive relative to its competition, and the game selection from Nintendo and third parties alike was extremely underwhelming, especially in terms of visuals. New Super Mario Bros. U went on to sell just shy of 6 million units, making it one of the lowest-selling mainline Mario games of all time. But the people who did give it a chance found a lot to love. Nintendo wasn't about to give up on the Wii U or its new Mario game without a fight. In 2013, Nintendo launched a company-wide event called the Year of Luigi. It was meant to commemorate the character's 30th anniversary. Several games and promotional items were released as part of the event, including an all-new DLC pack for New Super Mario Bros. U that didn't include Mario at all, New Super Luigi U. In it, you play as Luigi with his trademark floaty jumps and low traction in a series of courses with a 100-second time limit as a sort of expert mode for players who had mastered New Super Mario Bros. U. The stages themselves were edited versions of pre-existing ones to make them compatible with the new 100-second time limit, while the game's map and other elements remained largely the same. And indeed, Mario wasn't playable at all, instead being replaced here by Nabbit, who existed as a sort of beginner's mode. Nabbit couldn't use power-ups or ride Yoshis, like Luigi and the Toads, but he was also nearly invincible, able to walk past most enemies, and only being susceptible to death when falling down a pit or touching lava. New Super Luigi U was a welcome addition to Wii U owners, but like the game it was based on, it failed to convince more people to actually purchase Wii U consoles. It was eventually occasionally bundled in with the system, and the DLC itself was made available in a special physical edition, but it was going to take a lot more than that to turn the Wii U's fortunes around. But if Nintendo could do it for the 3DS, maybe there was hope for the new home console after all. And if their previous success story was any indication, they knew exactly what kind of game they needed to pull it off. Join us next time as Nintendo tries their best to resuscitate the Wii U and returns 3D Mario to his roots with a next-gen masterpiece.